Good stuff. All right. So to get us kicked off, would you guys mind sharing a business best and personal best? So best thing that's happened to you in the last week, business wise and personal wise. And Terry, I'll start with you.
Yeah, let's see. Business wise, Ethan's off to a great start. So really excited, or new DA in this. So he's doing well. So that's exciting. That's been fun. Kind of new energy. Personal best, we took a short spring break trip. Well, my wife, I flew in to meet my family after finish up some jobs in Williamsburg, Virginia. Had never been to Busch Gardens there, and that place is fantastic. So we had a great time.
Nice. Natalie, how about you?
I'm going to jump on Terry. I'm really excited about the energy with our DA. He's just finishing week 3 of Arlen's inspired sale training and measuring doors on the tablet, and he's figuring it out. So he's really excited. And then he followed me on a job yesterday and had his quote pretty similar to mine. So he was really excited about that. And then personal, I'm about to go on my 3-day vacation. So I'm pretty excited.
Nice. Mike, how about for you?
Yeah, good morning, Arlen and team. I guess personal best is our DA is Jenny. Had her first BNI referral appointment yesterday, a nice, pretty significant chunky job. So she's working on the pricing for that large 700 square foot tile job. So she's really excited about that. You know, she's getting in about 6 appointments a week, which is good coming out of the training class and all on her own. And, getting some, still has a couple no outright no's. So still working it. Personally, yeah, I mean, it's Easter weekend. It's Good Friday. This is like the Super Bowl for Christians. So it's kind of cool. Yeah, it's kind of a nice weekend. We got family coming in town. Got a dog here that we're sorry about that we're babysitting. His son's recovering from knee surgery, and I'll mute my phone.
Nice. Rick, how about for you, sir?
I'm playing emergency chauffeur to school, so I'm a little out of sorts. As Mike said, this, being Good Friday, it's a big day. So it's trying to just stay connected with the Lord through all this, and with the business. So fighting a lot of stress in the business right now. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Well, all right, we'll leave it at that. By the way, yesterday we had a handoff call for somebody that's going to be your neighbor to the south.
Yeah, I know. And well, he's not on the south. He's on the west, south, and east and north of me. He completely surrounds me. I mean, you guys, when they sold the territories to him, he's about 3 hours wide, east to west and north to south.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, good luck to that, right?
Yeah, he's going to be in for some challenges, and most of his areas are very rural.
Well,
so
all right.
He and I are going to be talking next week for about an hour and a half or so on a phone call, hour and a half. But yeah, I saw that and I was surprised that they sold those territories. So be interesting to see how it plays out.
It is.
Thanks for pumping us up, Rick.
What's that?
Thanks for pumping us up with all that positivity.
That's right. He's right.
Buddy.
I still couldn't understand you.
Never mind. It's all right. Was I breaking up?
No, I'm struggling with my my earpiece and my audio.
Here you go. Jenny, how about for you? Business best and personal best?
Oh gosh. Personal best, my daughter's 9, and we have a really good elementary school, but a bad middle school. And she enrolled in a magnet school program, which was a lottery-based system, which it's like really tough to get in. Well, she made it, so we're so excited. So she's not going to go to a bad middle school. She'll be going to a really good high achievement. So I feel like I saved a lot of money. I don't have to send her to private school. So that was really exciting. And business best, this is so hard. Business best, I'm about to bring on my second DA.
Oh,
Is that
oh
good?
no. Oh
Starting next
no.
week. Woohoo!
I love it.
You know what? So
love it.
I guess that's a good thing. I was waffling on whether to bring him on, whether I'm ready, and are we ever going to be ready? So I'm going to go. Let's go.
Was it the
I love
same
it.
guy? Was it the same
Yeah,
guy?
yeah. The
Okay,
prom
good.
dress guy. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
this
been
guy
waiting.
sold prom dresses for a living before this. He's gonna kill it, I'm telling you.
Yeah, he said it was a dying territory. The territory was doing about $600,000 in prom dresses. He came in, and then within a year, he went from $600,000 to $2 million selling prom dresses. And I was like, well, if he can sell prom dresses, hopefully he can sell floors.
Love that. I love that. Matt, been a
Speaking
while,
of
buddy.
prom dresses.
Yeah. Morning. How's
Morning.
everybody doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Well, business / personal best, probably the same. We handed off the keys yesterday to van number 2 to Sherry. So she ran her first solo appointment last night. And so it's good.
I
We're
love
going.
it. I love it.
Yeah.
Mark, how about for you, sir?
Business best. We had a good March, made up for just an absolute, soup sandwich of a January. So we're actually caught up and are almost back on our original plan because March was so strong. A good chunk of that was our DA. She's almost halfway to her $100,000 goal, and she's been in the job a month. So she's killing it. She landed a couple whales right out of the gate, so that was fun. Went with her the other day, and she just flat out one call closed the guy. 3 rooms of carpet, just walked in and sold them. I'm like, awesome. So that feels really good. She's actually had a 2-day networking meeting this week with one of the guys in one of my networking groups who teaches how to network. And so she's actually going to some advanced training right now on how to network. So that was, from a business perspective, that's kind of fun and exciting. Personally, last weekend, the pool got up to a whopping 86 degrees. So the pool is open and it's nice and warm, and you can lay out there with your hat on and fall asleep in the pool. It's a beautiful thing.
And Matt Ferguson is cussing you under his breath right now.
Come on down, pool's open anytime.
We had snow the other day.
It's pretty warm here. It's 36.
That white stuff that falls from the sky, that is God sending you a message from the heavens telling you to move further south. That's what that is.
Oh no.
Oh,
we
let's
enjoy
see.
it.
Ken, I don't know if you're driving, if you can do this without putting the car in the ditch.
Yeah, no ditch. I just actually got out of the car. So, yeah, I guess business best, we ended up hitting our March numbers in the plan, which I was a little suspect of because we were counting on our part-time DA to do a lot of that workload, but we were able to cover it and then some. So that was good. And personal best, going to have all our kids in for the weekend for Easter. So looking forward to celebrating with everybody.
Nice. So today, we're going to spend some time talking about skill development, but before I get deep into the weeds on that, I just want to share with you guys the scorecard of this class. So this is, as you can see, this is a very large design associate class. And what I've done is I've run the numbers from essentially the Monday of Inspired Sale class. So I know that some of the design associates had actually run appointments before that, but I've got it basically running from the Monday of Inspired Sale through today. For most of them, that means that they've been quote unquote on the job for 2 weeks. And let's just see. So Matt, you said that you just basically handed the keys off, which is why I don't see anything yet for Sherry, unless I'm, wait a minute, sorted by first name. That's brilliant. So good. So she's got a couple of proposals written there.
Yeah.
Jenny is right there. 7 proposals, got a landed job. All right, so starting to get a little traction. We're getting there. Beto, where's Beto? Not on the board yet. Has he written a proposal yet?
Sorry, so we're actually, he's not there with product knowledge. We're doing the mobile inventories all week. So I'm getting him a little bit more comfortable around products as we're getting our spring samples in. So he's not going to be ready to go till another couple of weeks. He's not.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll look for him in a couple of weeks then.
Yeah.
I've got him in the group, so as soon as he has the statistic, it'll show up. Let's see, Rebecca, who works with OPQRS. I don't see Rebecca on here either. I know with Ken, Rebecca's sort of part-time. Is she running stuff under your name, Ken?
Yes, she's not run any appointments yet. So we're still, I mean, she's only been on, I think, 7 ride-alongs so far, 7 or 8.
Okay.
So we're still working on ramping her up. It's just not happening.
Gotcha. So here's Alana. So and again, this is, she might have written some stuff before, but she's done 10 in these 3 weeks, she's done 10 first proposals, landed 3 jobs for $45K, 30% close rate. But yeah, you're right. She's landed a couple of big ones, average job size of $15,000. I know she's got to be excited, Mark.
Oh yeah, she was tickled. She was tickled pink, man. She so she landed that one. We said, like, take your husband out to dinner tonight, put it on the company, and that we had a end of the first month, Friday celebration over at Chuck Loggers. There's a little pub over here. So yeah, it was good.
I love it. We've got, let's see, Rick Webster's DA is Julie. So she's had a bunch of at-bats, 17 first proposals, landed 2 jobs. So that's good. She's getting a lot of opportunity, but we can work on her close rate. So as a coach, yeah, go ahead, Rick.
She's landed $5,000 worth of work.
I think your audio is.
She's already landed about $65,000 worth of work. I don't know if all that's.
So that's probably, if I were to back this date up, I would probably see more.
Okay, yeah. She's she's had a good start. She's a little but she's doing well.
Good. All right, and then I've got Terry's DA. So Ethan's written 9 proposals, landed 5 jobs. Look at this. He's got a close rate of 55%. Average job size 67,000. The Terminator has figured this stuff out. I don't know what you're doing, Terry, but they're feeding you guys well in Indianapolis. They're feeding you well. Something's in the water. I love it.
Wow.
Yeah, I got nothing. I couldn't even come up with a good snappy report. I got nothing. I don't know what it is.
All right. So here's where we're going to go today. We've got, we're going to spend some time talking about skills development. And yes, we will talk for a moment about the competency model, but today's webinar is really about how do you take your design associate, whether they're doing really, really well and they've got a 55% close rate, or they're struggling coming out of the gate, and what does it mean to help move them to their next level? So, if Jenny, if Beto's not there yet, okay, what do we do to get him to the next level so that he can go to the next level and the next level and the next level, right? So this is not a one size fits all. It's truly tailored to, what do you need for your design associate? So I think about coaching and I think about skills development. So I just want to ask you guys, before we start looking at a lot of words on the screen, what is coaching? What does that mean to you?
Coaching for me is you're kind of instructing, you're observing, and you're interjecting, whether it's through the way that you lead or the way that you would show in terms of like role playing. So you come out of you come out of a situation, you say, hey, let's redo step 1 and step 2, or, let's redo the pre-close. And
Okay.
you just kind of role play, you coach it along to see, so that they could so they can build confidence in doing that. You can't do it for them. They got to do it back to you.
Good. Good. What else? When I say coaching, what comes to your mind? Maybe how is it different than training?
I think for me, it's been being deliberate about setting aside time to provide feedback to my DA, because I think it can get so busy, but different than training, which he can do on his own. The coaching, he really needs the feedback on how he's performing.
Good, good. So when you think about coaching, or you think about developing somebody's skill, one of the key ingredients to developing somebody's skill is to identify the skill gap. So this is where you should be versus this is where you are. And that could be that could be anything in life, right? So we apply it to design associates and their ability to sell. You could apply it to design associates and their ability to generate local marketing. You could apply it to a hobby that you're doing, woodworking, welding, autocross, whatever it is. This is where I want to be. This is the level of performance that I want to be at, and this is where I'm at today. Or in your case, maybe it's where your design associate is today versus where they want to be. And then developing and honing those skills. But it's terribly important, because you've got to be able to identify this is what the standard is, so that you know what you're shooting for, right? And if you don't have the right skills, or if your DA doesn't have the right skills, you spend a lot of time, wasted frustration, because the person doesn't have the skill set that they really need in order to be able to do the job that you've hired them to do. So like Natalie said, training, you can watch videos, fine. And now you kind of mentally know what is going to happen, but it's very, very different. It's very different than taking somebody and saying, this is what I want to see versus this is where you're at right now. And I would challenge you, you can really only improve 1 or 2 things at a time. You can't give somebody a list of 58 things and expect them to go improve all that at once. You can really only improve 1 or 2 things at a time. So I'm going to throw these questions out here. And I want to get some some discussion going in the room. How are you helping your DA develop their skills? So what have you found that works for you and that works for your DA on developing their skills?
For me, I'm basically just constantly giving him feedback as he's doing the steps, because he's not there at the product yet. But when we get to the van, I'll ask him, so what's your strategy? What kind of products would you pick out at this, at this time? So I am constantly giving him feedback, letting them know where he's doing great and where he needs to, work on finessing his Inspire sales process. And he also told me that, Jenny, there's some areas that I'm not really comfortable in using as part of the sales process. I said, that's totally fine. You need to make it your own. And so it's just really making sure that, you give him feedback, and where he can improve in that process. And right now, what we're doing is getting together with the tablet, making sure, the measurements are pretty in line, really understanding, how to construct a proposal, just holding his hands through the process. It's a lot. I'll be honest with you. He told me this last Saturday. I had lunch with him and I was shocked, because I wanted to check in with him. I said, so how are you doing now that you're out of classes? I just wanted to see how everything's going. And he says, Jenny, I'll be honest with you, during the class, a couple of times I was about to give up. I was like, what? I had no idea. He goes, Jenny, when Arlen was like, in 3 months, you're going to be out there on your own and you're going to, basically he's basically saying there's no way I could be an expert in 3 months. There's no way. And during the class, I was completely overwhelmed. And I started feeling better when everybody else was feeling the same way I was feeling. That's when I was like, okay, I'm not the only one, because I thought I wouldn't be able to do this. So that kind of scared me. I had no idea he was going through this oh crap moment during classes, thinking he wasn't going to be able to become a DA. So I had to make him feel comfortable. I said, absolutely not. I'm 2 years into the business and I'm not even an expert. So don't worry about that. You just need to make sure you get the trust from the customers, hone in on your sales process. So I just realized that he was going through that emotion of not thinking that he could do this job, you know? So I'm here just trying to be a little bit more patient with him and making sure that he's going to gain that confidence. So he says, I feel a lot better now. He's so comfortable when he talks to the customers. So I think we're over that hurdle.
Fantastic. So it sounds like you found him right at the bottom of the transition curve and you were able to pull him back up. I love it.
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah.
So the others,
I was gonna say, Arlen, I think Ethan's at that point where he's running appointments on his own, right? But I try, especially jobs he doesn't land in the home. You know, it's just those basic questions. Okay, what'd you do well? What could you improve on? And then, you know, how do you think you can win the sell through follow-up? And that's basically, I don't say I do it every time, but I try to make a conscious effort to call him after an appointment and ask those questions.
okay.
It just
good.
helps him reflect on, you know, what he did and what he needs to do better. So.
Okay. So I'll ask you this, other than just straight up asking them, what do you think you could improve on? I mean, that is a way. How else can you identify what needs to be improved?
You certainly have the competency assessment form. You know, whether or not you use the full form or if you just want to concentrate on a section of it. I mean, going into an appointment with Lana right now, I'll tee it up like, okay, in the last appointment, we were working on this, that went well. What do you think? What do you want me to pay attention to in the presentation this time? I'm gonna, I'll pay attention to the overall thing, but what do you want me to really actively listen for? And she'll tell me, okay, I think I'm doing well at this and I'm doing well at this, but I think I really need to get better at this thing. All right, I'll pay a lot of attention to that this time. Then she does the appointment. And afterwards, it's like, okay, tell me 6 or 7 things that you did well first. I want you to focus on everything you did well because I want you to realize you're doing very well. Then I'll ask the question of, okay, how do you think you did on that area, whatever that area was? And then we'll talk about it. And then if she did actually well on that area, then I just give her lots of positive reinforcement. If she didn't do well on it, like a particular slide, for example, like she's having a real hard time with a Better Business Bureau slide for whatever reason. So then I'll be like, okay, well, this is what you said. Here's how that sounded. Here's a different way to do it, right? So in this situation task, here's your action, here's the result. Here's an alternative action that could lead to an alternative result. So we use the STAR and STAR AR feedback mechanism for giving her that information. And then I ask her, okay, cool. What do you want to work on next time? And then she'll tell me whatever it is while it's still fresh in her mind. And then I'll write that down and that'll be the basis for in the car going to the next appointment. Now, I don't do that appointment to appointment. We may work on the exact same skill for 2 or 3 appointments in a row.
Fantastic. I love that. I love the way that you just say, we're going to focus on just this section today, right? So it sort of takes some pressure off everything else. And it says, you know, you're not being evaluated on it. You're not getting a doctorate here. Let's just focus on this one thing. I like that. I like that. How do you guys get alignment from your DA on what needs to be improved? So maybe you see something that, you know, you're like, wait a minute, this is an area of improvement, and maybe they see something else. How do you get alignment from your DA on where that skills gap is?
I mean, I will just ask her, and it may be the wrong approach, Arlen, but I will just ask her, like, if she tells me she did all these things well, and one of those ones where I was like, nope, that was not good, then we'll go through all the positives. We'll talk about the one area that we were focusing on, and then I'll loop back to it and say, you said you did the pre-close question really, really well. Tell me about that. Because I heard something different in that, and I just want to kind of like peel that back a little bit, and then have her re-narrate it, and then do a situation, task, action, result, alternative result, feedback for her. And then we, at that point, need to make a decision of, do we need to focus on that, or do we need to focus on the other one that we already said we're going to focus on?
Nice. Nice. Someone else. Bad when I go off camera. Pencil decided to quit working.
I don't know if I'm muted or not, but I'm recognizing that I'm not doing a good job with coaching Julie. We talk about, we've shredded proposals and stuff to try and figure out, what she's doing and identify areas where we have problems there. And I've recognized some areas that we need to work on, but I'm not doing a good job of coaching her and giving her the encouragement in those areas that could make a difference in her presentations and so on.
Good. Okay. I say good because now we've got something that we can work on, right? I love it.
Yep.
What else? How else are you guys getting alignment from your DA on what needs to be improved?
We, when I ask her about, hey, how do you think it's going? What do you think it's, where are you missing the boat, if you will? Then what we try to do is we try to set some tangible, measurable, if you will. Okay, in 2 weeks, this is what we want to see you're doing. And here's what we want to do. So we want to set some markers, and we don't want to set it up too far. We want to make it, because I don't want to be like a month later, like this, it's the same issue. So it's got to be like 7 to 10, 12 days max, where we'd like to see some progress. Now, do we want to see perfection? No, because like Jenny said, we're all still kind of out there, fumbling along some. So, but we'd like to see a couple of really good steps in these directions. And here's what that looks like. And be clear. And it's like, okay, do you agree with that? Yep, I agree with that. Cool. All right. So we kind of build that, like, here's the cause, let's go take that hill kind of mentality.
Love it. I love it. So I'm going to share with you guys a couple of tools. These are not the only tools in your arsenal, but these are a couple of tools in your arsenal. One tool that you've got is your debrief flowchart. So you would use your debrief flowchart at the end of an appointment. Maybe it's an appointment that you rode with them, or you wouldn't have to ride it with them. This could be an appointment that they did on their own. Maybe they didn't land the job, and so they come back to the office, or you even have them on the phone, and you start with step 8. So let's say they didn't land the job, and you start with step 8, and you simply ask them to begin with, what was the objection? What was the reason that they chose not to buy from you today? And then as the coach, you're listening for that answer. You're trying to understand where is it that I can give somebody 1 or 2 things to work on. So the debrief flowchart is not going to help somebody land this job necessarily. I mean, it might. You might end up having a discussion about follow-up for this job and suggestions on how to follow up. But the real point of the debrief flowchart is to help you pick 1 or 2 things that you can help your design associate work on. So what is the objection? What is the reason that they did not buy? Well, if it's a buying thing, right? So, well, they said they wouldn't be able to afford the payments, or they said they couldn't do it right now. If the answer that the design associate gives you has anything to do with buying questions or time questions, now you're really focusing on step 8. You're really focusing on, maybe working through the walk of life or working through other closing tactics, not finding out when the customer could do it. So if the customer said, it's not something I can do right now, well, did you ask them, when would you be able to do something like this? Or not helping the customer figure out how they could pay for it through financing, right? Or not dropping to another option the way that they should have. In step 8, though, if the customer gave anything else, so let's say the customer, you show them that $30,000 price and they said, oh, well, we need to get some other estimates. Okay, that's not a buying question. That's not a time objection. That's a poo-poo objection. So I want to go back to step 7. What did they say in the pre-close? And this is where you're really challenging your design associate to remember exactly, word for word, what was it that the customer said? What did they say when you asked the pre-close question? Other than price or payment, would there be any reason we couldn't get your job started today? Well, did you get a positive? Did you get, no, it really just comes down to price. Okay, what did you say? What did they say? Or maybe they got a negative. No, I'm still going to get other estimates. All right, how did you respond? What did you find out when you asked the transition questions? All the way back in step 1. Maybe there's something in the in the way that they're asking the transition questions, maybe there's something to work on in dealing with those objections during the company story. And that might be a place to practice, right? It might be that they're not using the reference list, or they're not asking the transition questions, or they're not shooting an inspection video to drive urgency. They're not getting all the decision makers involved. Even if both decision makers were there, maybe one of them was, you know, they were in the other room watching the Masters, so they were in the house, but they weren't really in the appointment, right? So the whole point of going through this debrief flow chart with somebody is it's not to land this job, although sometimes that is an outcome. It's to help you find this is one or two things that we can work on. So if you don't mind, if somebody would volunteer, give me a customer that you've just run an appointment for, so everything is fresh on your mind, and we'll kind of walk through this together.
I can give you one.
Okay, so Natalie, what's the customer's name?
Anu.
Anu. All right, good.
Yes.
Is Anu male or female?
Female.
Female. All right, good. You never know. All right. So what was the reason that Anu did not, when you asked the closing question, in step 8, when you asked the closing question, what was the reason that they did not buy from you?
They were in the middle of purchasing the home and they needed to have all their budget in line for all the other contractors that were doing work in the home.
Okay, so that sounds a lot like a time objection, or it could have been a time objection. So did you find out when they would be in a position to do it?
They said they would let us know in a couple of days.
Okay, so that's when they're going to be able to make a decision, right? Is in a couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
So do you know when they're finalizing on the house and all that stuff?
Yeah, they want to do the work in about 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay, perfect. So when they told you that, what was your response?
No, I don't remember. I think it was like, is there anything I can do to make you or help you make the decision?
Okay, and what did they say?
No, you've provided enough information. We just need a few more days to decide on everything.
Okay, so now I'm actually gonna go down this other path because I'm starting to feel like there's a lot of poo-poo that's happening. So I want to ask, when you asked the pre-close question, what did they say?
I mean, they were happy and satisfied with everything. And they just needed more time, I guess. Yeah.
All right, so what exactly, when you said other than price or payment, would there be any reason we couldn't get your job started today? What was their response?
Well, we're just not ready to make a decision today.
Okay, so in the pre-close, you got a negative response, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay, so now it might be that I'm finding something in here that we can do to help, right? So I understand that maybe they can't commit the dollars to you today because they're still trying to get the closing on the house and whatever, but they perhaps could have committed to you that, hey, once we get all the dollars, you are the person. And it doesn't sound like you got that hard of a commitment, right?
Correct.
Okay, so as a design associate, maybe the next practice round that we do, I'm going to focus on how do we overcome that kind of stuff? How do we get the customer to commit to us that we're the ones that they're going to use? And so, you know, I'm not trying to sign a contingency contract or anything like that, but what is it that we can do to help get that person to say, you are our people? We're not talking to anybody else. You are our people, and we don't want you to go away, right? We want you. And so then you find, okay, that's the thing now that we're going to work on. So again, the debrief flow chart doesn't necessarily solve this specific appointment, but it helps you find that one thing that, okay, now in our next practice session, this is what we're going to work on together. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. And then of course, Mark mentioned this, another tool that you have, this is just, it's a tool. The competency assessment form that you've got, and I love the way that Mark uses it because he doesn't try to do everything every time. He just says, this is a section that we're going to work on. This comp model has gone through several revisions. The revision that is the current one, which you guys have a copy of, but I will be sending you one in the recap. This is a picture of the current one. If you happen to do it, on your laptop, if you plug in anything in these columns, you put a number, you put a letter, it doesn't matter. It's going to do an average for you, and you actually have a numerical average of, where they were in that section. The key to this is just being really, really, really specific about what you saw in the ride-along. Reinforce what's good, identify the areas for important. The most important section on this, and it's the thing that I see overlooked the most when I'm getting competency assessment forms during class, this is the page that gets overlooked the most. And it's the feedback page at the end. So you've got all the numbers, and people do a good job putting in numbers and comments here, but the feedback page is the most important part of this. Even if you don't fill out the numbers on the front end, and you start by asking the participant, what do you feel you did well? So, Beto, what do you feel like you did well? What do you feel like you need the most work on? And then the evaluator, you as the coach, says, this is what I saw from each section. Okay, final score, if you did the numbers, it's going to do a final score for you, and that's there. And then I agree with your design associate, these are the two things, at most two, and it might only be one. This is what needs to be improved, and this is what I recommend you do as a course of action. This is the most important page. If you don't do anything else, maybe you fill out some numbers, maybe you don't fill out some numbers, maybe you do one section, two sections, no sections. If nothing else, at least get the feedback form done, because that is where the discussion happens for the design associate to know this is what we need to work on. Now, those are two tools. So your appointment debrief, your competency assessment form. Another tool that you have are sales meetings. So let me just ask you guys, what is a sales meeting?
Okay, I'll bite. It's a meeting where you get together and you talk about sales.
Okay. That's one type of sales meeting. What else do you guys think? What do you use your sales meetings for?
To see if you're on track. It's, how many proposals are we behind, or how many, or not that we're always behind, but
Okay.
Are we on track for the week? Or
so I want to shift your mindset, because for most people say, oh, a sales meeting is exactly that. It's an opportunity for us to look at the numbers. Okay, we can look at the numbers, but the bulk of the time in a sales meeting really should be spent around practice. This is really the focus of a sales meeting, is to help your design associate with their skills. I remember when my son was, and no, this isn't my son, this is just a stock image, but I remember when my son was about this kid's age, he came to me and said he wanted to learn how to play the guitar. And I said, great. So I went and bought him a cheap, like a $25 guitar somewhere, and we went to a local guitar studio, and we were going to sign him up for lessons. And he said, well, no, I don't want to actually practice. I just want to be able to play the guitar. Okay, well, that's a great thing for a little kid to say, but we're all adults here now. Nobody gets good at anything unless they practice. And I don't care if that's playing the guitar, I don't care if that's sports, or if it's sales. Nobody gets good at doing this unless they practice. Now, emotions play a critical role in learning. If, like Jenny said with Beto, if they're in the dumps and they don't think they can do it, you gotta fix that first, right? Because there's no way that you're going to be able to sit down with Beto and say, Beto, that sucked. We got to do it this way. I mean, he's not going to take that feedback. It's not the right time. So we got to deal with the emotions. Surprisingly, mental practice is actually very powerful. So I try to encourage design associates to say things out loud. But honestly, if somebody is mentally engaged, and they are rolling through, this is what I'm going to say. It's better if they can say it out loud, but even mental practice can be really, really powerful. And I will tell you that one of the key things is to have the motivation for why they need to practice. So if your design associate feels like, hey, I'm already the best in the world, I'm not motivated to get better, practice is going to be really, really, it's not going to be fruitful. Or if your design associate says, well, I already suck, so practice isn't going to help me, that's going to be really, really hard. Or if your design associate says, hey, this feels like a waste of time, the first thing is to help them see why practice is really important. There's a quote from Vince Lombardi. A lot of you have seen this already. Practice does not make perfect, only perfect practice makes perfect. And if you'll indulge me, I want to play like a 4-minute clip. This is a much longer interview. And when I send these slides to you today, you're going to have this link. And if you want to go back and watch the whole interview, feel free to do so. But I just want to show like a 4-minute clip of this interview that 60 Minutes did with Nick Saban. Nick Saban, if you don't know the name, head football coach for Alabama. I'm not an Alabama fan, but I really appreciate the way that Nick Saban coaches his team. It is absolutely relentless on process. So I'm going to pull this up. Get it pulled up.
This trick to get gas for a penny.
All right.
Yeah, that's a good thing. That is a trick. Here we go.
How Saban has driven Alabama to the top. We begin with an afternoon in early August. An energized Saban couldn't wait to get to his favorite part of the day.
All right, blow the horn, let's go.
To practice. A thunderstorm had forced his team indoors.
Top hat, set, go.
But it didn't dampen Saban's passion to teach his players the finer points of football.
I want you to step. We're not getting much out of this, guys, because you guys won't do the stuff right. Do it again. No, bring it back. Do it again.
In demanding his players be as exacting as he is, Saban can be volcanic.
I've told you 3 times already today.
Why are you so tough on people? Well, I don't know if that's fair, that I'm really tough on people. We create a standard for how we want to do things. And everybody's got to buy into that standard, or you really can't have any team chemistry. You know, mediocre people don't like high achievers, and high achievers don't like mediocre people.
Saban doesn't miss anything. On this afternoon, a freshman caught Saban's eye.
Hey, Eddie.
Number 4, Eddie Jackson, who seemed lost.
You an offensive lineman or what?
Jackson, a defensive back, was stretching with the offensive lineman.
You got to buy him, Eddie.
Trying to master Alabama's complex schemes was too much, too soon for Jackson.
Hey, Eddie, it's kick support. It's cover 2. Why are you backing up? You're supposed to come and force the edge.
Jackson looked like he wanted to crawl into a hole.
Come on, Eddie.
All of Alabama's players have been there.
Oh, Vinny.
Safety Vinny Sunseri remembers the day he and a fellow defensive back forgot a play.
And he throws his hat, and it's a straw hat, and it's not really heavy. He's able to throw it like Zorro at us. I thought it was going to hit us and knock us out. And it just starts yelling at us, and we're like, oh, we just got Saban.
Got Saban.
Yeah.
He messed up my hat.
But Saban's players have faith in their coach largely because of a revolutionary approach he designed years ago called the process. Ignore the scoreboard, Saban preached to his players. Don't worry about winning. Just focus on doing your job at the highest level, every single play, and the wins will follow.
The approach was to challenge the players to play every play in the game like it had a history and life of its own, and tried to take the other team out of the game and make it all about us in terms of what we did.
It's like jumping out of a plane without a chute.
Yeah.
I mean, in your business, what, we're not going to focus on winning?
Right, but it really is the simple way to do it, and it's the best way to do it.
It's a way of life around here. It's the way we play the game. It's the thought process behind everything.
Star quarterback A.J. McCarron was involved in the one play that epitomizes just how deeply the process has been programmed into Alabama's players. Late in last year's blowout win over Notre Dame in the championship game, McCarron and his center Barrett Jones called different plays at the line of scrimmage, both insisting they were right. A bizarre shoving match ensued on national TV. Saban loved it.
The game's probably won, and
Well,
they're
it's
still trying to
42 to
get
14.
Yeah, they're still trying to get it right, which to me is the kind of pride in performance that you want in the players.
Can you see the critics saying, "Come on, coach, just take a breath, relax, enjoy the
Right.
moment"?
I can see people saying that, but we're still coaching. We're trying to get them to do it right. I don't ever want the players to relax in a game.
Saban urges his team to do things the right way all the time. So when this player arrived late for a meeting because he was busy taking out his earrings, it didn't go over well.
Number one thing, be on time, because it shows you care. All you're telling me is your earrings are more important than your damn football.
Saban never lets.
All right, so like I said, I will send you guys, thank you for indulging me on that. I will send you guys the slides. So you'll have that if you want to watch the rest of that, interview. What are your thoughts on that? As it taking what Saban's doing with the Alabama football team, what does that speak to you when it comes to practice and coaching your design associates?
Like repetition, just, making sure that, again, the DA is practicing and practicing and practicing so they can, create that muscle memory in their mind on the process. Because it is hard. I remember when I was first starting, there was too much in my head for me to follow the process because you were too busy trying to think about the next step. But once you start practicing in bite-sized chunks, then you're able to do that more effortlessly. And thereby being able to focus on the sale, versus the process. But you got to practice the process for you to get to that point.
Nice.
Yeah, I think too, we have a process, right? So practice mastering the process and the wins or jobs will come along with it. That's kind of where I went.
Okay. I expect at least somebody to say, "Oh, I learned that Nick Saban's a jerk. I don't want to be like him."
No, I did. The thing that stuck with me was the comment about, we practice the way we practice, so we take the other people. The other team isn't a factor in the game. It's just we do what we do, and whatever the other team does doesn't matter. We do what we do to the best of our ability every time. And if you think about that in the sales process, it doesn't really matter what they say in step 7. No, because whatever they say, I've got an approach to it. It doesn't matter what poo-poo they throw out. I've got an approach to it. If I get a positive pre-close followed by poo-poo, there's a process for that. And so the more we practice the happy path, the more we practice the objection handling to poo-poos, both in step 7 and step 8, then it doesn't really matter what they say. The more skilled we get at it, the less the customer, become a factor in how we do what we do.
Good. Matt, what do you think? How did that hit you?
I know we're going to do stuff a little bit different this time for sure than with the last DA. So we always said we were going to do role playing. We're always going to do this, and you just get wrapped up in the busyness of the day-to-day grind, and Karen and I have already talked about it. We're setting aside. She's actually working with her right now. She's not going to go on to my 11 o'clock. She's working with Care. So, we're running a lot of appointments, so I've kind of got her involved too,
Sure.
in working with her, and they've been getting the van ready for days and all that kind of stuff too when I've been running appointments. But yeah, we're going to set aside time, and like you said, our sales meeting is going to be on, what can we do better, and doing some role playing for sure.
Good. Natalie, how about you? What did you come away with?
I kind of came away with the perfection aspect that, not being hard on them, but, they have to get it right. So like really hampering on proposals and making sure they're not short with square footage. And it's really in the details where we're gonna earn customers' trust. And so, yeah.
So I know for me, this quote, it's right at minute 325. Just focus on doing your job at the highest level every single play, and the wins will follow. And that's it. We have a sales process. Does it work every time? No. But if we follow the sales process and we focus on getting really good at it, that sales process will work 50 or 60% of the time. There's no reason why we can't have a 50 or 60% close rate if we are absolutely committed to doing that. Now, I'm talking specifically on residential. I'm not talking about commercial work, which is a whole different ballgame. But on residential, the normal stuff that we do, there's no reason we can't have a 50 or 60% close rate if we are following the process and if we commit ourselves to really, really getting good at the process. And Jenny, I'm 100% behind you. When you tell Beto, hey, I want you to make this your own, 100%, absolutely. But I would also challenge Beto and say, okay, what is it that you're uncomfortable with? You're uncomfortable shooting an inspection video? All right, well, maybe we're not going to do that yet, but one day we're bringing that back because that helps put a sense of urgency in people. Or maybe you're not comfortable with a reference list. Okay, I'm not going to let your uncomfortable stand in the way of you being great. And so we're going to figure out how to get past that uncomfort. And you're going to be uncomfortable for a little while, but you're going to be great at this because you're going to work through that uncomfortable. Greatness stands on the other side of pain in everything that we do. And I'm not going to let a little bit of pain or a little bit of discomfort stand in the way of me helping you get really, really good at what you do. And so I want to be I don't want to be a jerk with design associates, but I also don't want to let excuses and, I'm uncomfortable stand in the way of helping them achieve what they really can achieve, right?
Arlen, I think I'm just going to show this video and I think he's going to understand. I think that's going to speak volumes. So I'll have him take a look at that and then we're going to just practice and continue on. But you're right. It's not easy being great.
No, it's not. It's not easy. And when I get, I'll let you know about it. Go ahead, Joe.
All right. I've often wondered, how Nick Saban stayed on top for like the last decade. I mean, Alabama maybe loses one game a year, and he does it year after year. What he's describing, is the very essence of, in our case, sales culture. Like he's building the culture here, and his players, and like in our case, our DAs, they got to know that we care. Right? First and foremost. And, it's obvious his players know that because he can say whatever he wants to them and they know where he's coming from because he actually cares. People don't care about what you know until they know how much you care, and it starts there. But like, his focus on the process, and not even worrying about the result, he's coaching up his players and they're undefeated. We got to have that same mentality with us. We can't just coach in the bad times. We got to coach in the good times too. And it's part of the culture. It's part of our DNA. So like when you jump in a van, your DA understands that you're there to help them and not just critique them with a fine-tooth comb. If they know that you're out for their best interest and their development, Alabama gets players who are 5-star recruits that could start anywhere, in the country, and they're bench warmers on Alabama for their first 2 years, and they do it because they know they're going to be in the pros. They're going to get better under him, and that's how we have to look at it the same way. Whereas it can't just be when they're screwing up, It's got to be all the time. It's part of what you do. It's part of your culture. And, focus on the process, like in our case, the sales process. And but just keep doing it in good times and bad,
And I'll tell you, when I forget which day it was, a couple of weeks ago when I had him in the Inspired Sale class. I forget which day it was, but Lucas Wilson had a new design associate in that class. His name is Sawyer. And Sawyer, I called Sawyer out because I know I've been to Lucas's location. I know his sales manager, Tegan, and I know that religiously, Tegan sets aside one morning every week. They do a 2-hour practice every week. And I called that out on the call. And I said, you know, you look at Sawyer and you keep his name in mind, because I guarantee you in a year's time, this guy is going to be at the top of the leaderboard. And the reason he is not because he did anything special in class. In fact, he was one of the more quiet people in class, but because I know that they are absolutely dedicated to practice and making themselves better. And I was shocked, honestly, I was shocked at the number of DAs that responded to that comment by saying, man, I wish we did that. Your DAs want this. They want to practice. They want to be coached. Good design associates, good salespeople want to get great, and average salespeople want to be even better. And you know, like they said in the video, mediocre people don't want to be around high performance, and high performers don't want to be around mediocre people. And what you've got as a whole in this class, when I look at this class as a whole, there are a lot of really, really high performers in this class. We just have to pay attention to them and actually coach them. They want it. They want to be practiced. They want to be coached. They want to be great. And they're looking for you guys to be their coach to get them there. They're not looking for me to be their trainer anymore. That's done. I mean, I'm happy to come alongside and help you in anything you need to do, but they're looking for you to be that coach. Now, I look at a typical sales meeting. This is not the only way to do a sales meeting. I share this with you because this is a structure. It's not the structure. It's a structure. A typical practice meeting. I don't even want to call it a sales meeting. A typical practice meeting. You got the franchise owner, your sales manager. This is absolutely about deliberate practice. You could use Zoom as a backup. And I know some franchisees have design associates that are 2 hours away because they're on the other side of the territory. So it is possible to do it by Zoom, but it's a whole lot better when you're face-to-face with somebody. I would argue for 2 90-minute sessions a week, but if that feels like it's a lot for your schedule, at least commit to 1 session per week to advance skill, to have fun, to build your sales culture. Basics, okay, I'm not going to go through these one by one, but obviously you need to be prepared. You need to be ready to practice. You need to be ready to coach. I cannot imagine a Nick Saban walking out on the field saying, okay, let's see, what do we want to do today? Right? Oh, yeah, well, we haven't practiced this in a while. Let's do this. No, he's got a plan in place of what he wants to do. And you definitely want to foster a competitive environment with your team. Salespeople are by nature competitive. And if you've only got one design associate, find a way to team up with other franchisees in the area or via Zoom and find a way to create a competitive environment. Some ground rules. Good. Explain to your design associate why you have the meeting. It is all about practice. I do love, you know, Jenny, you say, I'm going to show this video to Beto. Good. Show it to them. This is why we do it. We practice the way that we play. I know for me, there was one practice meeting that my design associate showed up in a pair of shorts, jean shorts, and I sent him home and said, we don't go to appointments, we don't go to customers' houses that way. Go change pants and come back. We're not going to practice in jean shorts because we're not going to go into a customer's house that way. So we're going to practice the way that we play. He goes, yeah, but I didn't have an appointment today. You know what? It doesn't matter. This is about getting in the right mindset. When you're role playing, you got to stay in role play. We know that we're the best, so we've got to be the best. And we're going to be on time every time. I love Saban's comment to the dude, you know, you by being late because you're taking your earrings out, you've told me that your earrings are more important than your football. Okay, so what is more important to your DAs than being great at what they're doing? We're absolutely a team. We're going to be transparent and honest. The last bullet on here, we're going to be open-minded to feedback and suggestions, and that goes for you as a coach, but it really goes for the design associate as well. So to prepare for a sales meeting, you know, just understand what it is that you need to practice. Where do they, this is where the numbers come in ahead of time. What is it that my salespeople need, right? Where are they versus their goal, and what is it that they need? What are the areas that can be improved, whether you got that from a debrief or you got it from a ride along or you got it from some other method. This is what I want to practice. This is what I want to celebrate. These are the messages that I need to send. And so here is a typical agenda. Again, this is not the only way to do it, but this is a typical agenda where you might spend the first 5 to 10 minutes doing an opening. And maybe that opening is, you show them a funny or inspirational video. Maybe you talk about highlights from the business. Maybe you recognize jobs that have been landed or people that have hit individual targets or whatever else. But you want to open your meeting with something that's fun and exciting and that gets people engaged, right? I mean, there's several reasons that we typically open these meetings with a personal best and a business best. It's not just because we want to know what's going on in your life. That is part of it, but a lot of it is just, hey, let's throw some gratitude out there. The more gratitude we throw out into the world, the more gratitude we get back. So it's a great way of just opening everybody up. Housekeeping only if necessary. These are the little things. Hey, remember when you do a work order, you got to do this, whatever. Great, but this should be no more than 5 minutes. This is not the point of the meeting, so we absolutely have to stay focused on what the meeting is about, and that is deliberate practice. And yes, 70, 80 minutes, it should be over an hour. I know when I was before I had Design Associates, I was in a group of other franchisees, and we would meet once a week via phone. We didn't have Zoom, or we didn't do Zoom at that point. But we would meet via phone. And I remember one day via phone, we practiced for an hour and a half. We practiced the last 10 seconds of the inspection video. That's all we did. How are we gonna really hit the last 10 seconds of the inspection video hard and really drive that sense of urgency? I mean, you can practice whatever you want to practice, but for that one particular day, that was the thing. So it was very deliberate. It was one little tiny piece of the sales system. And, if we had decided for an hour and a half, we're going to practice the company story, nobody gets better. But spending an hour and a half practicing the last 10 seconds of the inspection video, all of a sudden, everybody's inspection video went up a notch. It doesn't go up 10 notches, but it went up a little bit. And the next week, something else goes up a little bit. And the next week, something else goes up a little bit. There should be specific goals. There should be an intense focus. And if you're doing role play, try to push your design associate out of their comfort zone. That's where we learn. We learn outside of our comfort zone. You might decide to, what are you going to practice? You might decide to have a guest speaker come on. So you decide, hey, today we're going to have Joe come on and Joe's going to help us with such and such. Great. It might not be somebody in floor coverings. You might have another company that doesn't even do flooring. You might have a window washer that's a neighbor of yours. You might have, who knows, right? You might have a roofer. You might have somebody that runs a tropical smoothie that comes on and talks about the way that they approach things. Okay, great. You might video conference with another office, especially if you're going to do role play. It would be great to challenge another office and say, okay, we're gonna do our sales meetings together. We're gonna practice together. It might be that ends up creating competition. So let's just throw out an example here. It might be that Mark and Terry and Jenny and Natalie and Rick and Matt all get together and say, okay, we're gonna do our sales meetings together, and now we're gonna put a competition out there for our brand new design associates. Which DA is going to get the highest close rate this week? Which DA is going to do this week? Which DA is going to do this week? And together, you know what, y'all? The thing is, the nice thing about grouping together is everybody could, each one of you could kick in $5, and the DA that does a great job gets the pot. Okay, it doesn't have to be monetary, but the more you can make it fun and the more you can create a competitive spirit, the better. Now, a couple of little rules about deliberate practice. The sales manager is always in control. What do I mean by that? The sales manager is always the customer. And let's say that you guys did create a little group and you were going to practice together, and this week Terry decides, or the group decides that this week Terry is leading the meeting and Terry's the sales manager. So that means that everybody else is the DA this week. So when Natalie gets called on, Natalie doesn't get to step in the seat of the sales manager. She just has to play the role of the DA. Jenny's got to play the role of the DA. Next week, when it's Jenny's turn, Jenny gets to be the sales manager and Terry has to be the DA, right? So whoever is running the meeting, whoever it is that's running the practice has to be the customer. And the reason for that, there is a why behind it. The reason for that is because if you let just anybody be the customer at any time, you know, you're trying to drive a particular skill, and depending on what the quote unquote customer says, it can take that discussion in a completely different direction, right? So you might be saying, okay, today we're going to practice the walk of life, but we're not going to practice just the walk of life. We're just going to practice payments. And how do you deal with payments? Well, if you're the customer, you know you can answer questions a certain way to get the design associate to lead them to payments. If just anybody becomes a customer, there's no telling what they're going to say, and it may or may not get to the skill that you're trying to drive to. Most importantly, I slow down here on purpose. Practice is focused on moving one small skill dramatically on a small piece of the system, not lightly practicing large sections. Now, a lot of this we've talked about, how are you practicing the sales system? But practice doesn't have to be just the sales system, right? It could be, you know, like Jenny, you said you're doing product stuff this week and next week. Okay, good. That's practice. These are the products. How would you sell this product? What do you like about this? What do you not like about this? Practice might be, I'm going to practice walking into a real estate office and talking to the gatekeeper at the real estate office. It might be that this week I'm going to practice going into a restoration company. It might be that this week I'm going to practice what I'm going to say in my B&I group. It doesn't have to be exclusively around the sales system. It has everything to do with where is your design associate? What is the gap that you see that's going to help them the most? And how are you going to help them close that gap? It might be, I know a couple of weeks ago, because I went back and listened to the last couple of sessions where Joe led it. I know Marie Mahoney was struggling with her design associate and specifically around measuring. Okay, well, a practice session might be, I know a realtor, there's an empty house. The realtor is going to let us in the empty house and we're going to go measure this house together. Okay, I don't have an empty house. We're going to go to my house. We're going to go to your house. We're going to go to my neighbor's house. And we're going to go measure a house together. So there's not the pressure of a customer. There's not the pressure of whatever. And we're going to measure a house together. This is going to be our practice. And our practice today is going to be about measuring. So it doesn't have to always come back to the sales system, but it's where do you see the biggest gap that you need to help your design associate with? And what are we going to do to close that gap? So I know I threw a lot of words really fast, so let me just pause here and open this for discussion. Where do you guys see the need for practice? What could you do in the next couple of weeks to help your design associate?
Well, Arlen, as I mentioned, my biggest focus and priority is the whole product knowledge piece. Not that he needs to know every single sample in the mobile van, but he needs to have go-to products, what is your favorite in the carpet, the good, better, best. And that's my biggest priority, as well as fine tuning the whole estimation. Because if he doesn't know how to estimate, there's no way he can run the appointment by himself. So that's kind of where I am. The next couple of weeks is laser focused around product knowledge and the whole estimation. And there's some onus on me because I noticed there's a lot of opportunities in the PLM. So I'm trying to limit keystrokes for him. So basically my job probably next week is to make sure that, again, limit the keystrokes, do the bomb kit so he doesn't have to, think too hard around constructing stairs or whatever the case is, as well as product knowledge. So that's where I'm going to hone in on him so he can go live and do the full-blown appointments himself.
Good.
So that's kind of where I'm at.
Good.
I think for me, one of the things that I recognize Julie seems to be under measuring things. And so we need to, and I've thought about coming to my house, we're going to hers and doing a session where we do dueling tablets and we look at what she's doing and kind of share with her strategies to more accurately measure. So we're not finding ourselves on the very hairy cusp of being short for product.
I like that. We did that, Rick, we did that a couple of weeks ago at launch, where I had people all in an Airbnb together and we were all measuring, and there was one person whose measurements were always out of whack with everybody else's. And what we found was that instead of having her laser measurement tool set up in feet and inches, she had her tool set up in feet point something. So instead of having like 11 feet 6 inches, she had 11.6 or 0.5. And so she's always entering the number in incorrectly. I've also found people that had their laser measuring tool set to measure from the front instead of measuring from the back. So it's little details, right? It's little tiny details that matter.
Well, I think the other thing, and this is what I think Julie's challenge is I try, and this is something I picked up from you, Arlen, I try to measure as simply as I can, to take everything as a rectangle and do takeouts. But you've got to look for what is the longest length for that particular wall. So going door jamb to door jamb rather than wall to wall in a hallway is critical, because you lose 6 inches of width across a hallway. When you're doing some funky shape and you run to the center of a diagonal wall versus the very tip of it, it gets wonky. And with carpet, you need that whole length. With LVP,
right,
you need the whole length to then, you can do takeouts for big chunks, but otherwise I tend to leave those in just to make sure I'm not short.
Right. So your practice meeting this week is all about measuring.
Yep.
Right.
And
so
talking about strategies of measuring.
Yep, and strategies of measuring. And so this is where I say, if you've got a dedicated time every week, and this is our practice session, it doesn't always look, if every week is, okay, this week we're going to practice a company story. My gosh, that's boring. Within 3 weeks, you're going to quit doing it because you're bored and your DA's bored. It doesn't have to be the same. It shouldn't be the same thing every time. I wouldn't practice the company story. I might practice 2 or 3 slides, or I might practice a technique in the company story, like we're going to practice price conditioning in the company story. But we're not going to do the whole company story. We're going to take 1 or 2 slides and talk about how are we going to price condition on these slides, right? It's too big. Even the new condensed company story is too big to say we're going to practice that today. It's about taking something small, and this is how we're going to practice this, and driving that skill home. And if you've got a dedicated set aside time every week to practice, it does not feel like it's punishment. It feels like this is just part of the culture. And Joe likes to talk a lot about building your sales culture, and I fully agree with him. If a practice session, a once a week practice session or a twice a week practice session is just part of the culture of your business, then it's not punitive. It's just, this is what we do. If, however, you don't practice for 3 weeks and it's, well, you know, your close rate's at 11%, so we need to practice. Okay, now it feels like it's punishment.
So Arlen, I have a question, because I'm not a millennial, but I'm all about efficiencies. So you know how they have the Thursday 1 to 2 sales inspired, sessions. I was just thinking, well, that's already available every Thursday. I mean, could that act as could I send Beto there, Thursdays, and for him to also hone in on his sale, because that's another avenue, right?
It is.
Would you recommend that? Honestly, I've never sat into the Thursday 1 to 2 class. I haven't sat in there. I'm not sure the format or the approach, but would that be helpful for a new DA coming out of your class to attend those Thursday classes?
So I would say yes, it would be very helpful for a new DA to attend those classes, but no, that cannot replace you being that DA's coach. You are the coach, right? So while, again, I'm going to pick on Nick Saban again. While Nick Saban might take one of his players and say, I want you to go, learn something from such and such, right? I want you to go participate in that. That does not relinquish Saban from being this guy's coach, right? So although Beto may learn a great deal from sitting in on Joe's practice session, perfect, but that doesn't relieve you from the responsibility of being his coach. And then following back up with it and saying, okay, maybe you take what Joe did, maybe you sit in with it with Beto, and then you take that the next day and say, okay, we're going to take whatever Joe did yesterday and we're just going to take it to the next level. We're going to go even deeper.
Gotcha.
So to sort of wrap up your sales meeting, you always want to end on a high note. You always want to end on, if there are particular goals, like, maybe part of this practice session is we're going to pull products out of the van, whatever. Maybe, Jenny, you set a goal around that. Maybe there's some tasks that come out of that, right? Maybe there's I want you to develop your own sort of cheat sheet product selector that has all the hardwood boards listed and key characteristics of each board or something, right? Whatever it is. And there's some goals that come out of it. Maybe there is a competition. Maybe there is a wager that comes away with this, okay? We know that practice works, and we all know it intuitively, right? We know that in order to practice, you have to know enough about whatever the subject matter is to be able to coach it. So, Jenny, it might be that instead of having Beto be on the call, that you're on the call, and then you take that and you help, if that's applicable, then you help Beto with that, because now you've advanced your skill, right? You've got to be able to model the system for sure, right? There is power in deliberate practice. I said it before, I'll say it again. Nobody gets good at any skill, whether it's selling, whether it's playing the guitar, whether it's playing any kind of instrument, whether it's any kind of sport, whatever it is. I do not believe, and nobody can convince me that there are people that are just, well, there might be 2% of the population, but people aren't born salespeople. It just doesn't happen. The best salespeople in the world are the ones that take their craft seriously and actually practice their skills. So I want to sort of wrap this up for you guys, but before I do, I just want to get your feedback, and I'd love for everybody to have a moment. So if there's no volunteers, I'll go around the room, but I'd love for everybody to sort of, what is your one big takeaway from today? Is there something that you're going to apply from today? Or is there something that maybe hit you different than maybe you've heard in the past? Terry, I'm going to start with you. Do you have a big takeaway from what we've done today?
Yeah, I mean, I think having specific sales meetings, or at least even if we call it practice sessions, but I think you made a good point. DAs want that, and we need to provide that to get better. And Lucas is a great example. So that's a great point.
Let's see, Rick, how about for you?
I like Terry. I think I've got to just block that time and mandate that Julie block the time, and we're there and we're doing those practice sessions. I like the idea of having a goal to practice something, whether it's measuring product knowledge, strategy for pulling products, going through the walk of life, whatever that little piece is, to help her to feel more confident with the individual pieces, so that when that piece isn't an issue that's holding her up on a sales call.
Good. Matt, let's see if you're still there.
I am. I'm getting dressed. I got to head out the door to an appointment.
Yeah, keep that camera off, dude.
Just a few minutes. But yeah, our sales / practice meetings are going to have to be not like they were in the past. Definitely more focused on, coaching and practicing versus just pounding through the numbers. So that's what we're going to do.
Nice. Mark?
I am now unmuted. I think we've done a pretty good job of establishing the basis. We have a sales meeting. We are doing written feedback. I think there's a gap that you've identified, Arlen, which is at the level of skill set. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down the ICAT, Inspired Sales Competency Assessment Form. And I'm going to actually create like a grid of basic by steps and intermediate by steps and advanced by steps, and then chunk that down into really, really tactical bite-sized elements rather than continue to do full appointment practices. So we can really begin to laser focus in on very specific micro bursts of it. I know from a trainer's perspective, coach's perspective, that will allow me to be better prepared and better focused, because then I can do the work of preparing for just step 7 poo-poo objection handling, or just slide 10 of the deck. So I've got some work to do in prepping that training tool to help me, but I think that laser focus call out was a good one.
Good. Natalie?
Yeah, I think I'm just echoing what everyone else said, the importance of doing sales meetings and role play. My DA has already been asking for it, so I think we're going to implement it.
Good. All right, Jenny.
What was clear to me is it's just like working out, no pain, no gain, right? That video, it spoke to that, and you're right. I mean, there's going to be some pain, and we're going to have to be super disciplined. And I know everybody's so busy. My issue, like everyone else, is finding that time, right? I mean, we have every week team meetings, but we gotta basically, dedicate separate sales meeting, right? Because it is so important to make sure that you're setting your DA for success. And in order for you to help them be successful, you really need to, as Mark mentioned, be laser focused and really be disciplined about coaching your DA and making sure that they fine tune the areas where there needs to be improvement. And that's going to require some pain. I mean, we're going to have to be, like you said, sometimes it could get boring, right? And how do you integrate it and make it fun and challenging, and keep them on this journey with you without losing them, and, mitigate all the fears that they have, so it's just a combination of things, but seriously, I'm just going to have to show that video, and he's going to understand that we're going to have to, buckle down and start getting laser focused, because that's the only way he's going to get better. And I'm sure he'll understand that.
Nice. Joe, I give you the last word.
All right. I'm still thinking about that Saban video. I mean, building a sales culture has always been kind of a nebulous thing, intangible, whatever. But I think, he shows you how to start that process of building culture. Like with what he's doing out there, with the focus on the process, and you have to earn the right to be someone's coach. Like, just because you're the franchise owner and they're the employee, it doesn't mean you can be their coach. You have to earn the right to be that role, and that's like building trust. They have to really know that, you care, for lack of a better way to say it. And if they don't have that trust, the coach is going to fall on deaf ears. Okay. You really got to, build that relationship and earn that trust, and just to have the right to be their coach. It's a privilege, and many of us never get to that level, but that's step one, is you have to earn the right to be there and have them respect you as a coach. Not necessarily a friend or a boss, as a coach, and I think that's step one. And I think Saban does that. His players know that he cares, and he can say whatever he wants to them. He's not going to offend them, because at the end of the day, they know that he cares and he wants to make them better.
Good. I love it. Thank you. All right. So your next sales leadership call, this is the last one in this series for you guys, is 2 weeks from today. That'll be on April the 21st. So it's 2 weeks from today, 10:30 to 12. You're going to have Marianne Murphy and or Chad Schlarkey. It's either Marianne or Chad, or they may jump on there together. But the topic is going to be all about business management. So running your design associate, coaching your design associate, managing your design associate, managing the business by the numbers. So that's a call absolutely not to miss. It should already be on your calendars, and I would encourage you guys to be live and in person on that.
It says March, by the way. I'm sure you know that.
Oh yeah, it does. Look, it says April over here.
Arlen knows you care, Jenny, so he's not going to get offended by that.
That's right. You can't.
Just
you
saying.
can't offend me. You can't offend me. Trust me. People have tried. So I will fix this before I send it out. Thank you for that. But yep, the 21st of whatever month you want it to be, the 21st of April would probably be the best. Good deal. Well, guys, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you guys jumping on here today. It was good to see you. Have a great weekend. I hope you'll be able to spend some time with family this weekend, and look forward to seeing you guys again soon.
Thanks, Arlen.
Thank you.